Sam had dreamed of this day for years. Ever since he was a boy, he wanted a quiet place by the water where he could hear the wind in the trees and the gentle sound of waves on the shore. After working hard in the city, saving every penny, he finally bought a small cabin on the edge of a beautiful lake. The cabin was old but strong, built with thick wooden beams, and it had a little dock that stretched out into the water. To Sam, it felt like home from the moment he saw it. The morning he moved in, the sun shone brightly across the calm lake. Birds chirped in the branches, and the air smelled fresh with pine. Sam's truck was full of boxes, tools, and a few pieces of furniture. He hummed to himself as he carried his belongings into the cabin. He felt proud, peaceful, and excited to start this new chapter of his life. But peace did not last long. Across the narrow road from his cabin was a gated neighborhood with large modern houses. The people there had formed a homeowners association, or HOA. They controlled everything in their community, from the color of paint on the walls to the type of flowers in the gardens. One of the most active members of this HOA was a woman named Karen. She was known for watching the lakefront like a hawk and telling others what they could or could not do. Karen stood on her porch with her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on Sam's truck. She did not like what she saw. To her, the cabin looked too simple, too rustic, and the truck parked by the water looked out of place. She marched across the road, heels clicking, and stopped at the edge of Sam's property. "Excuse me," Karen called out sharply. "What are you doing here?" Sam wiped the sweat from his forehead and turned with a friendly smile. "Good morning. I just bought this cabin. I'm moving in today." Karen frowned. "That's impossible. This lakefront is managed by our HOA. We don't allow outsiders to move in without approval." Sam shook his head calmly. "Ma'am, this cabin is not part of your HOA. I bought it directly from the old owner. It's private property." Karen's eyes narrowed. She didn't like being corrected. "Well, we have rules here. You can't just park your truck like that, and you certainly can't bring in old furniture. It ruins the look of the neighborhood." Sam kept his voice polite. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm only unloading my things. I'll be done soon. Again, this is my cabin. It's not under your HOA." Karen's face grew red. She turned quickly and pulled out her phone. "We'll see about that," she muttered. Within minutes, Sam noticed flashing lights. A police car pulled up to the gravel road leading to his cabin. Two officers stepped out. Sam set down the box in his hands and walked toward them, wondering what was going on. "Sir," one officer said, "we got a call about a disturbance. A report said someone might be trespassing here." Sam took a deep breath and pulled a folder from his truck. "I'm not trespassing. I just moved in today. Here's my deed and purchase papers." The officers looked over the documents. Everything was clear and legal. The cabin truly belonged to Sam. The younger officer even smiled. "Congratulations on your new home. Looks like a beautiful spot." Karen stormed out from across the road, pointing her finger at Sam. "You can't let him stay. He doesn't belong here. Our HOA controls this lakefront." The older officer turned to her. "Ma'am, this cabin is not under your HOA's authority. The owner is free to live here as he wishes. You cannot stop him." Karen's jaw dropped. She tried to argue, but the officers firmly told her to step back. With no choice, she returned to her porch, fuming. Sam felt relieved but also unsettled. He had only been at the cabin for a few hours, and already trouble had found him. As he watched the police car drive away, he wondered what kind of neighbor Karen would be. He carried the last box inside and looked out at the shining water. The lake was calm, but he sensed that his time here might not be. The first night in the cabin was quiet for Sam. The soft sound of water touched the shore while crickets sang in the grass. He sat on the porch with a cup of tea, feeling grateful for the peace. Yet in the back of his mind, he remembered Karen's anger and the way she had called the police on him. He knew it would not be the last time she caused trouble. Across the road, Karen was pacing inside her large living room. She had never been so upset. For years, her HOA controlled almost every detail of the lakefront. Families in her neighborhood looked up to her because she kept order. Now this man, with his old wooden cabin and simple truck, threatened that order. Karen did not care that his property was legally outside the HOA. To her, rules were rules, and she believed everyone near the lake should follow them. The next morning, Karen called an emergency meeting of the HOA. The members gathered in a fancy clubhouse near the gated entrance of their neighborhood. She stood in front of them, speaking with authority. "Neighbors," she began, "a new man has moved into that old cabin by the lake. He claims it's private property, but we all know the lakefront must remain clean and uniform. If we let him stay, he will bring down the value of our homes." Some members nodded, others whispered. A man named Brian raised his hand. "But if his property is not part of the HOA, can we really control what he does?" Karen's eyes flashed. "Of course we can. We must protect our community. If the law won't help us, then we will use pressure. We will make life so hard for him that he'll have no choice but to leave." The members murmured in agreement. They trusted Karen's leadership, though some looked uneasy. While Karen planned her moves, Sam was busy fixing his cabin. He swept the dusty floor, repaired a loose door hinge, and started painting the walls inside. He wanted to make the place warm and welcoming. Sometimes he paused to step outside, breathing in the fresh lake air. He reminded himself that he had bought the cabin for peace, not conflict. Still, he could not ignore the sharp stares from across the road. That afternoon, as Sam carried tools to his shed, he noticed 3 HOA members walking along the edge of his property. They pretended to be out for a stroll, but their eyes scanned his yard and dock. Sam gave them a polite wave. They didn't wave back. Instead, one of them wrote something in a small notebook. Later, Karen sent Sam a letter. It was placed in his mailbox, though it did not carry any official stamp. The letter read, "Dear cabin owner, you are in violation of our HOA standards. Your truck is unsightly, your dock is unsafe, and your furniture is not approved. Remove these at once or face penalties. Signed, HOA Committee." Sam shook his head with disbelief. He knew the letter had no power. Still, he placed it carefully in a folder, just in case he needed proof later. That evening, his friend Maria drove over from the town nearby to help him unpack. She laughed when he showed her the letter. "They're trying to scare you, Sam. They have no authority over your land. Don't let them push you around." Sam smiled weakly. "I won't, but I think Karen isn't going to stop. She seems determined." Maria looked across the road at the big houses. Lights glowed in the windows, and she could almost feel the eyes watching them. "Then you'll need to be just as determined. This cabin is yours. You worked hard for it. Don't let anyone take it away." Meanwhile, Karen was already moving to her next step. She gathered signatures from her neighbors to demand that the county review Sam's cabin for safety violations. She believed that if she could not remove him directly, she could use inspectors and officials to make his life miserable. As Sam locked his shed that night, he looked up at the stars. The lake shimmered under the moonlight. It was beautiful, yet he felt a storm was building, not in the sky but in his life. He had only wanted peace, but now he stood at the center of a conflict he had never asked for. The sun rose bright and golden across the lake. Sam woke early, planning to work on the roof of his cabin. He wanted to replace a few shingles before the autumn rains came. As he set up his ladder, he heard the sound of a car pulling into the gravel road. Two men stepped out, both wearing county inspector badges and carrying clipboards. "Good morning," the taller inspector said. "Are you the owner of this cabin?" "Yes, I am," Sam replied, climbing down from the ladder. "Is there a problem?" "We received a complaint about safety concerns," the other inspector explained. "We need to check the property to make sure it meets county codes." Sam nodded politely. "Of course. You're welcome to look around." Across the road, Karen watched with satisfaction. From her porch, she could see the inspectors walking around Sam's cabin, making notes. She smiled, certain that they would find problems. The inspectors examined the dock, tested the railing on the porch, and checked the foundation. Sam followed them, answering their questions honestly. "Did you make any recent changes to the structure?" one asked. "No, sir," Sam said. "I just moved in last week. I've only done small repairs like tightening screws and painting inside." The inspectors nodded. They could see the cabin was old but sturdy. The dock had a few boards that might need fixing, but it was not dangerous. After an hour of careful inspection, the taller man closed his clipboard. "Mr. Sam, your property is safe. The cabin is built strong, and nothing here violates county rules. You're free to enjoy your home." Sam thanked them, feeling a wave of relief. But he noticed the inspectors glancing toward the large houses across the road. "To be honest," one of them added, "we get complaints from that HOA more often than you'd think. They sometimes exaggerate." Sam gave a small smile. "I had a feeling." When the inspectors left, Karen hurried out to the roadside, waving her arms. "Wait. Did you see his dock? Did you check his shed? That cabin is a hazard." The inspectors stayed professional. "Ma'am, we did our job. The cabin is safe. Please understand that private property outside your HOA is not your responsibility." Karen's face turned red. She shouted after them as they drove away, but her words faded in the distance. Sam went back to his ladder, though his peace was again disturbed. He could feel Karen's angry eyes on him, and he knew she would not stop. That evening, Maria returned to the cabin to help him set up the living room. She noticed Sam was quiet. "What happened today?" she asked. Sam told her about the inspectors and Karen's frustration. Maria shook her head. "She's wasting her energy on this. You proved your cabin is safe. But I think she'll try something bigger next time." Sam sighed. "I just want to live quietly by the lake. I'm not trying to fight anyone." Maria placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then you must stay calm and steady. If she wants a battle, don't give her anger back. Just stand firm with the truth." Across the road that same night, Karen called another HOA meeting. Her voice was sharp as she addressed the group. "The inspectors failed us," she declared. "They don't understand how much this cabin will ruin our community. If we let this go, soon others will move here, and our lakefront will be overrun. One neighbor asked nervously, "But what more can we do? He owns the land. The county approved it. The police won't stop him." Karen lifted her chin. "Then we go higher. We will petition the lake authority itself. If we can't stop him with local rules, we'll use the lake laws. That dock he loves so much, let's see if it's truly legal." The members exchanged looks. Some hesitated, but most nodded. They were used to following Karen's lead. Back in his cabin, Sam sat on the porch looking out at the moonlit water. He felt proud that the inspectors had cleared his home, yet he could sense another storm coming. The lake was calm, but trouble was already building on the other side of the road. Days passed quietly at the cabin, but Sam could feel the tension around him. He worked on the porch, painted the walls inside, and fixed the loose boards on his dock. Every time he stepped outside, however, he noticed eyes watching him from across the road. Karen's presence was like a shadow on the lake. One morning, a letter arrived in Sam's mailbox. This time, it was official. The envelope carried the seal of the Lake Authority, the group that managed public water rights around the lake. Sam opened it carefully. "Notice of review: your dock structure will be inspected for compliance with lakefront regulations." Sam frowned. He had checked the deed when he bought the cabin. The dock was part of the property, built long before any HOA existed. Still, he knew this must be Karen's doing. That afternoon, he saw Karen standing with several HOA members by the road. She wore a satisfied smile, as if she had already won. Sam kept calm, refusing to give her the reaction she wanted. 2 days later, officials from the Lake Authority arrived. They wore neat uniforms and carried clipboards, much like the county inspectors before them. One of them introduced himself politely. "We're here to inspect your dock." A petition was filed questioning its legality. Sam nodded. "Of course. Please look at it. I have the papers showing it was built decades ago." The officials walked onto the dock, testing the boards, measuring the length, and taking notes. Sam stood nearby, ready with his documents. Across the road, Karen and several HOA members had gathered to watch. Karen whispered loudly, "Just wait, they'll shut it down. That old dock is not allowed." After almost an hour, the officials returned to Sam. The lead inspector cleared his throat. "Mr. Sam, your dock is fully legal. It was registered with the Lake Authority many years ago, and your deed includes the rights to maintain and use it. There are no violations here." Sam handed over the papers he had prepared. "These are the documents from the original owner. They match what you found, don't they?" The inspector nodded. "Yes, they do. You have nothing to worry about." Karen's mouth dropped open. "What? That can't be right. Our HOA rules don't allow old wooden docks. They should all look the same. This one is ugly and dangerous." The inspector looked at her firmly. "Ma'am, HOA rules do not apply to property outside your association. This dock belongs to Mr. Sam, and it is fully within his rights to use it. The Lake Authority has no issue with it." Karen tried again, her voice rising. "But he's lowering our property values. He doesn't fit in here. You can't just let him do what he wants." The inspector shook his head. "We are here to enforce lakefront regulations, not property values. This case is closed." The officials left, leaving Karen red with anger. The HOA members muttered among themselves, some embarrassed by how far things had gone. Sam quietly returned to his cabin, though inside he felt a wave of satisfaction. Each time Karen tried to push him out, the truth stood strong. That evening, Maria visited again. She found Sam sitting on the porch, looking out at the calm water. He told her about the lake authority visit. She laughed softly. "It looks like Karen keeps setting traps, and you keep walking through them without trouble." Sam smiled. "It's not that I enjoy it. I just want peace. But I won't be bullied out of my own home." Maria nodded. "That's the right attitude. Sooner or later, her own actions will turn against her." Across the road, however, Karen was far from giving up. She gathered the HOA members in the clubhouse once more. "They think they can ignore us," she said, pacing in front of them. "But this is our community, and we will fight for it. If the county and the lake officials won't listen, then we will take our case higher. We'll call the state board. We'll flood them with complaints until they act." Some members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Brian, the same man who had questioned her before, finally spoke up. "Karen, maybe we're going too far. Every time we push, the law sides with him. What if this makes us look bad?" Karen glared at him. "Do you want this man lowering your home's value? Do you want strangers moving in and ruining our lakefront? No. We keep fighting." The members fell silent. Some agreed, others hesitated. But once again, they followed her lead. Meanwhile, Sam gazed at the stars above the lake. He had survived another test, but he could feel that Karen's determination had not ended. He did not know what she would try next, only that he must remain steady. The lake looked calm, yet beneath its still surface, the fight for peace was only beginning. Sam's days at the cabin grew brighter. He planted flowers near the porch, replaced old curtains inside, and spent long afternoons fishing at the edge of the dock. The lake shimmered under the sun, and for moments at a time, he felt he had finally found peace. But across the road, Karen's frustration only grew stronger. The failed attempt with the lake authority had embarrassed her. Many HOA members began whispering that maybe she had gone too far. Yet Karen refused to stop. She believed she was protecting her community, even if the law disagreed. One evening, she stood before the HOA in the clubhouse again. Her voice carried sharp energy. "The county ignored us. The lake inspectors ignored us. But we will not be silent. I have already filed a petition with the State Property Board. They have the power to review the cabin and the dock. If enough complaints reach them, they must take action." Some members clapped weakly, while others avoided her eyes. Brian, who had always been cautious, spoke up. "Karen, maybe this is not wise. The state board will see the same facts as the county and the lake authority. What if this makes us look like we are harassing him?" Karen's face tightened. "Do you want to live across from that old cabin forever? Do you want buyers to think our community is less valuable? No. This is for all of us." Though some were doubtful, most remained silent, and silence gave Karen her victory. She began sending letters, emails, and phone calls to the state board, each one filled with complaints about Sam's cabin. She encouraged her neighbors to do the same. Meanwhile, Sam noticed more letters arriving at his mailbox. They were not friendly notes but copies of complaints forwarded by the state office. He read them carefully. The complaints said his dock was unsafe, his cabin was not fit for living, and even claimed his presence threatened the beauty of the lakefront. Maria came by that evening and found him sitting with the stack of letters. "What now?" she asked. Sam sighed. "Karen has taken this to the state board. They say they're reviewing the complaints, but for now, I just have to wait. Maria shook her head. She's not fighting for safety. She's fighting for control. But the truth is on your side. Don't lose hope. Sam smiled faintly. I won't. But I admit, it's tiring. I only wanted peace, and now I'm defending myself over and over again. The state board eventually sent an official notice. Representatives would come to review the cabin and dock, not because they believed the complaints, but because so many had been filed. It was their duty to investigate. When the day came, 2 officials arrived in a state vehicle. They introduced themselves politely and began their inspection. They checked the cabin's foundation, the roof, and even the fireplace. They studied the dock and tested the wooden boards. Sam provided every document he had: his deed, proof of the dock's registration, and even the inspection papers from the county and the lake authority. After several hours, the officials sat with Sam on the porch. One of them spoke firmly. Mr. Sam, your property is entirely legal. The cabin is strong, the dock is approved, and nothing here breaks any state rules. These complaints have no merit. Sam nodded with relief. Thank you for taking the time. I expected this, but I appreciate your clarity. The officials added something more. We noticed all the complaints came from the same HOA across the road. To be honest, this looks less like concern and more like harassment. We'll be making a note of that in our report. Across the road, Karen had been waiting eagerly, sure that the state board would support her. When she saw the officials shaking Sam's hand with friendly smiles, her face turned pale. She rushed to them, demanding answers. What did you decide? His cabin is a problem, isn't it? You can't let him stay. The officials looked at her calmly. Ma'am, we found no issues. Mr. Sam's property is fully legal. In fact, we must warn you and your HOA. Filing repeated false complaints can bring consequences. Please think carefully before sending more. Karen stood frozen, speechless. The HOA members around her shifted nervously. For the first time, it was clear that her efforts might backfire. That evening, Sam sat by the water, watching the sunset. The lake glowed orange and gold. Maria joined him, smiling gently. See? Truth wins again. She can't fight the law forever. Sam nodded, though he sensed the fight was not yet over. Karen's pride had been hurt deeply, and people like her did not give up easily. Still, the winds were shifting, and the HOA's power no longer looked as strong as before. After the state board cleared Sam's cabin and dock, life at the lake returned to a peaceful rhythm. Sam worked in the garden, fished from the dock, and slowly unpacked the last of his belongings. The water sparkled in the sunlight, reflecting his relief. He finally felt like he could enjoy the lake without constant worry. However, across the road, Karen was far from finished. Her pride had been hurt, and she refused to admit defeat. The HOA had spent weeks filing complaints, calling officials, and trying to challenge Sam. Now the state board had declared the complaints baseless, and Karen felt both frustrated and humiliated. Shortly after the state officials left, Sam received another letter. This time, it was addressed to the HOA from the state board. He opened it carefully, curious. The letter was clear and firm. After reviewing repeated complaints from your HOA regarding a property outside your jurisdiction, the state board has determined that your actions constitute harassment. Continued filing of false or unnecessary complaints may lead to sanctions against the HOA, including fines and restrictions. Sam's eyes widened. For years, Karen had used the HOA to control everything near the lake. Now, the law was warning her and her organization. The next day, Karen gathered the HOA members urgently. She waved the letter in the air, her voice high-pitched and sharp. "Look at this. The state board is threatening us. They say we are harassing him. We must be more careful or we could face fines, lawsuits, or worse." Some HOA members exchanged nervous glances. Brian, always cautious, spoke carefully. "Karen, maybe it's time to stop. We already lost. If we push further, the law could take serious action against us." Karen shook her head. "No. We have always protected this lakefront. We cannot let him continue to undermine us. We must find another way to win." Despite her insistence, murmurs of doubt filled the room. Members began questioning whether their efforts were worth the trouble. Some even suggested apologizing or at least stopping the complaints. Meanwhile, Sam focused on his cabin and the lake. He had been careful to document everything: the letters, the visits, and the inspector's reports. He knew Karen might not stop, but he also knew he had the law and truth on his side. A week later, another letter arrived, this time from the county. It addressed the HOA directly, noting the repeated false complaints and warning that any further harassment could lead to fines, removal of HOA privileges, or legal consequences. The county emphasized that the lakefront cabin belonged to Sam, and the HOA had no authority over him. Karen read the letter aloud to the HOA members. Her face was pale with anger, and she slammed the paper onto the table. "This is ridiculous. How can they allow him to stay? He's ruining the view, he doesn't belong here, and now they are threatening us." Some members quietly nodded, realizing that the fight was now more dangerous for them than for Sam. A few even whispered about stepping down from the HOA board or suggesting rules that stayed strictly inside the gated community, far from the lake. Sam, meanwhile, continued his life with calm determination. He repaired the dock, hung new curtains, and even invited neighbors from the town for a small picnic by the lake. He welcomed everyone kindly, showing that the cabin was a place of peace, not conflict. Word of the state board's warning spread quickly. Other lakefront property owners began questioning Karen's leadership. They saw that her actions had endangered the HOA and wasted time and energy on one person who had done nothing wrong. Slowly, her control over the HOA began to weaken. At the same time, the lake remained beautiful. Children fished by the shore, birds glided over the water, and Sam's cabin stood quietly, strong and welcoming. For the first time in weeks, he could feel that he had won the battle not with anger, but with patience, truth, and calm. Even Karen could no longer ignore the truth: the law was on Sam's side, the lakefront was beyond her control, and the HOA's power had limits. The lake was calm, glowing under the morning sun. Sam stepped onto his dock, feeling the wooden boards beneath his feet. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of pine and water. For the first time since he moved in, he felt a sense of complete relief. Weeks of conflict, inspections, and threats had finally ended. Across the road, the HOA clubhouse was quiet. Karen had tried everything: calling police, filing complaints with county inspectors, involving the lake authority, and even petitioning the state board, but nothing had worked. The letters from the county and state had made it clear: the HOA had no authority over Sam's property. The state and county officials had also included warnings. Any further harassment or false complaints could bring legal consequences against the HOA itself. Many members of the HOA began realizing that Karen's stubbornness had placed them in real danger. Some quietly stepped down from leadership positions, while others suggested focusing only on properties that were officially part of the HOA. Karen refused to admit defeat, but her influence had weakened. Neighbors who had once followed her without question now spoke privately, questioning the wisdom of her actions. The unity she had relied on was slipping, and her ability to control the lakefront was gone. Sam spent the day fixing the cabin's small garden and arranging flowers near the porch. The water reflected the sky, and the gentle waves whispered against the dock. He hung a small wooden sign at the edge of his yard, "Welcome to the lake. Enjoy the view." It was a friendly gesture, showing that he meant no harm and wanted only peace. Later in the afternoon, Maria came to visit. She carried a basket of food and smiled as she looked at the cabin. "Sam, you did it. You stayed calm, followed the rules, and now the lake is yours to enjoy without constant conflict." Sam laughed softly. "It wasn't easy. I had to deal with inspections, complaints, and endless interference. But standing firm and keeping the truth on my side made all the difference." Maria looked toward the road. "I think the HOA learned a lesson too. They can't control what isn't theirs. Sometimes people like Karen need to see limits." Sam nodded. "I hope so. But even if they continue, I feel confident now. I know my rights, and I have proof to protect them." That evening, the lake looked magical under the setting sun. Sam took a small boat out onto the water, letting it float gently as he watched the sky change colors. The peace he had longed for was finally real. Meanwhile, across the road, Karen sat in her living room, fuming quietly. She realized that every effort to control Sam's cabin had backfired. The state and county officials had made it clear, harassment would not be tolerated. Even the HOA members who had followed her lead now avoided conflict, unwilling to risk legal trouble. The HOA's attempts to dominate the lakefront had ended in embarrassment. Some members spoke about rewriting the rules of the community to focus only on areas officially under their control. Karen still wanted influence, but her reach no longer extended to Sam's cabin. Back at his cabin, Sam invited a few neighbors from outside the HOA to watch the sunset with him. They sat on the dock, drinking lemonade, and laughing quietly. Children skipped stones across the water, and birds flew overhead in peaceful arcs. The cabin, once at the center of a storm, now radiated calm and welcome. Sam realized that winning was not about anger or fighting. It was about patience, calmness, and letting the truth guide actions. The lake had become a place of freedom, and his cabin a safe haven. As darkness fell, the stars appeared above the water. Sam leaned back on the porch chair, listening to the gentle lap of the waves. For the first time, he felt fully at home. The fight was over, the HOA had been humbled, and the lake belonged to those who respected it, not to those who tried to control it. Sam smiled quietly. The peace he had dreamed of as a boy had finally arrived. And this time, nothing could take it away.